Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Music Career Show. So, just in case you're new here, hello there, my name is Barry Carroll, and every week I dive into the secrets of building a successful career in music with amazing musicians and music professionals from all over the world. My aim is to get you inspired with real life stories and learn from industry insiders so that you can make music work. Please subscribe, review, and share the podcast so that I can help you unlock your potential as a professional musician. And then you'll also help me share the love as far and wide as possible. Perhaps if you're a musician out there in the world stuck in a 9 to 5 lifestyle even, then don't miss out on my free music teacher roadmap. This is a step-by-step guide of the exact steps even I took to build my business and make music work for me. And you'll find that in the description of this episode, or if you so please, you can head over to onelabmusic.com/roadmap. And now, as I always say, now that we've gotten all the housekeeping out of the way, today I have an absolute rock star in the world of music teachers. He once ran his own music school and built it up to over 2,000 weekly students. 2,000 weekly students. When I read that, I genuinely didn't think it was true to begin with years ago when I first came across him. But it is true, and he is absolutely class of what he does. And now his main focus is to teach music school operators and businesses throughout the world exactly how he did just that. He was one of my biggest influences when I started out my own teaching business over 2 years ago, and was one of the very, very first names on my list of people to interview when I started the podcast. So I'm delighted to have with me tonight at 10 to midnight, because he lives in New Zealand, Mr. Johnny Wilson. Johnny, how in the hell are you?
Oh, I'm awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Barry, and thanks for all the kind words you shared. Yeah, awesome to be here.
Great stuff altogether. So, Johnny, for people that may not have heard of you just yet, why don't you introduce yourself to us all and tell us what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Johnny Wilson. I'm a drummer, and I started teaching my way through university to pay the bills, so teaching private drum students one-on-one. And then I, after university, decided to build a music school, and that grew from my little teaching roster of 15, 20 students. I grew it up to about 2,000 students, and then started helping other music schools around the world show them how we built such a large school, and won a few awards and things like that. And so I set up Build a Music School, where I took all the millions of dollars worth of lessons and tools and things that we'd had to go through and build, and give them to teachers and music schools all over the world. So we have about we got three or 400 music schools in 20 countries that we work with. And so I'm there all day helping them out and helping them grow amazing music schools that not only provide freedom and a great job and business for these people, but changing thousands of kids' lives. So I absolutely love it.
Amazing. That's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Let's reverse back a little bit, and I'm going to ask you, where did music start for you?
Yeah, good question. So I think for me, the first time I played the drums was I went away to a cousin's house, and they had a drum kit, and they weren't very good at the drums, but within a few, an hour or something, I could play, rock beat one, and then I just wanted to play drums nonstop, and so that's kind of where it started. And then I got back to funny story actually. I got back to it was what we call intermediate school here, so about 11 years old, and the opportunity came up to sign up for instruments at school, and so I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to play the drums. And so I went home and I said, Mom, Dad, here's the enrollment form. Can I sign up to learn the drums? And I was so excited. And they said, no, we don't want a drummer. And so I was so disappointed. But I realized that the lessons at the school were actually free. And so I just signed up anyway. And so I learned, so I learned the drums for free at school, which was really great for, I don't know, must be about 6 months. And my dad was like the pianist in like little church band that we were going to at the time, and I'd tag along to a Thursday night music practice. And one Thursday night there was no drummer there, and so they were like, "Oh, we don't have a drummer." And I said, "Oh, I can play the drums." And my dad goes, "No, you can't." And I go, "Yeah, I can. I've been learning at school." And so I got up and I tapped along to these songs, and from then he's like took it seriously. He was like, "Oh, well, we should invest in lessons and help you get a drum kit," and the rest is history.
Excellent. What was that first drum kit that you got?
I got a red Premier Olympic, it was called, with horrible sounding cymbals
Right.
and tuned badly with big toms on big ugly angles. But I would
Yes.
get home from school each day into high school, and I had 3 or 4 albums that I loved. So it was like Rage Against the Machine, The Offspring, Nirvana, and I would just crank the stereo full bore, and I'd just play along to these songs with the windows open until my parents got home,
Yes.
and the neighbors probably hated me. But man, that's how I started. I loved it.
I love it. Yeah, if you were listening to Nirvana, so were the neighbors. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Great stuff altogether. So so you were 11 years old and you were playing away with your dad. Eventually, after he took it seriously, and you got your dad Premier Olympic kit, and that's fantastic. You started then when you were in high school, secondary school, whatever you call it in New Zealand. Uh, Bands and stuff must have came along fairly soon after, did it?
Yeah, yeah. So my favorite music style back then was punk rock. So more the fast Californian sort of skate punk rock stuff, no effects and strung out and all these sorts of bands. So that my two loves were basically playing punk rock music, and I did really enjoy the church and the gospel music as well. But punk rock was kind of the favorite. And that band that I had from when I was sort of 16 years old, we're all actually about to turn 40 next year, and so we haven't played for 15 years. We've actually just gotten back together to do a reunion show for our 40th birthdays. So I've got to practice tonight. Actually, we've had one, and so that's another really cool
Brilliant.
moment at the moment.
That's class. And are you rusty or are you all still in good enough nick?
It was a bit rusty. I think I've probably kept up my musical chops the best out of them, but because it's been a career. But we'll sound good.
Yeah.
We've got like 9 months to make a good show. Um, yeah,
Aye.
yeah. So like rock bands and punk bands and church bands, that was kind of the early stuff, and then I ended up doing a music degree, and then getting into more of the jazz stuff and Latin and covers and all the good things that you've probably done as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, that kind of leads me into the next section. Was that I wanted to know was teaching always on the cards for you, or did you have, and I mean this in the most respectful way
Mm.
possible. Did you have bigger aspirations? Did you want to go on and be the next John Bonham, or were you happy enough just teaching away and ticking away, or what was on the cards?
Yeah, good question. So there were a few key moments. So when I was a teenager, all I wanted to do was play drums, and playing punk shows and stuff like that was the most exciting time ever. And so if I could do that for a job,
Mhm.
then that's what I wanted to do. And you think that it's
Yeah,
possible when you're 16, and in New Zealand, it's not really possible. You got to go overseas to bigger audiences. But um, as you start, stepping into university and things, I had a teacher who taught me the drums, and I'd gone from basically being like a failed high school student where all I wanted to do was music, so I just didn't try at anything else. I kind of failed or scraped through, and so I had this music teacher
yep,
that,
same here.
yep, and it's such a common thing for so many musicians.
Yep.
And so when
Hmm.
I finally figured out, like, oh, you can actually do a music degree, so you might as well do something that you're passionate about and choose a career. So I chose music with no
Hmm.
idea of what I was going to do with it, but that teacher had, his name was Chris Opie. He had basically mentored me and taught me, how to be a great drummer, how to play all these styles of music and get gigs, but also how to be a good leader, and that was really important. So as I basically went from being a failed high school student to getting, a lot of A's and graduating really well, I basically looked at my life and was like, wow, this guy changed my life. And that was the coolest thing ever. I'm like, if I could do that for other young people, that would make me really happy. And so that was the first big moment. And then the other one, I remember I was teaching the sort of 30, 40 students, and we got this gig where my band was playing at one of those big sort of Christmas in the park events, and there might have been, I don't know, 5, 10,000
Mm.
people. And I'd played, and I did well, and there was a moment where I did a big drum solo and everyone clapped, and it's this like kind of cool moment where it should be super exciting. And I was just like, this is just whatever, oh, I wonder what I'll have for dinner after this.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and I didn't care. And then I had bargained to get a spot where I got to get 4 of my best drum students in the show to do a big drum solo thing. And they did this big 4 snare drum percussion with cowbells and funky Latin rhythms and movements and stick tricks. And it was really cool. And they were super nervous and excited. And they got up and it was amazing. And then all the teenage girls wanted to talk to them afterwards. And they were just having the time of their lives. And that moment just clicked for me. I was like, I loved seeing them have that opportunity 1,000 times more than what I just
Yeah.
got to do. And they wanted to be me, and I would rather have, what they just had. So I was like, I think
Yeah.
I'm born for this. And I chased it.
Good stuff. So, how did you start out? Just to touch on that, that is absolutely amazing. That me and you have first of all, that sounds like an amazing experience for you, and the fact that you remember it in such detail, it obviously was such like a prominent thing,
Mm,
and like basically a turning point. But I completely agree with you. I'm at the stage now where I'm not done with gigging, but I'm over it.
yeah.
I've done it so much. I'm over it. People are like, oh, and I'm not bigging myself up, but people are like, "Oh, you're this, you're that, you're class, or you're whatever." And it's like, I'm not class. I'm just very, very well practiced. I just know what I'm doing, and I'm so over it. And like you're saying, when you have someone that is you've shown them how to do something and they finally get it and they actually have an experience that you can see means an awful lot to them, that's far better than you having that experience yourself. So it's just
Yeah.
it's lovely. Me and you are literally as far away in the world as I think it's possible to be. However, we're not that far, that too far removed at all in that. But
Yeah. Love it.
so when you started teaching, how did you do it? What did you do first? Did you just start off going to students' houses? Did you rent a space? What did you start off doing? What was day one of teaching like for Johnny Wilson from Build a Music School?
Yeah, so I actually filmed this video, which your people can grab free if they want to see it, and I showed exactly like where I started, going door to door, and then my journey up to kind of the $1 million building and the big flash space that everyone would love to have. And so it started, door to door, and you're just it's funny thinking back. Like there was one family where um, they would they would buy me KFC for dinner as a family, like every time. So it wasn't like you just pop in for a half-hour lesson. It was like a whole night affair. So you'd teach. I was 2 daughters. You'd teach one, then to teach the other. Then you'd have KFC and hang around with the family for an hour, and
Yeah,
then pop home. And that was that. And you think I don't know what I charged. I probably got something like $20 or $30 for that whole evening. And so it
yeah,
started door to door, and then you realize, oh, there's more demand. People start telling friends. You start learning how to advertise. And you go, oh, I got to start taking this seriously. So yeah, it started door to door, and then eventually getting a space like you've got, like a shed. And my shed
yeah,
was maybe slightly bigger, but I put egg cartons all over the walls. That was my very high tech
yeah,
soundproofing, and then it just sort
yeah.
of it grew from there.
So how did you go then from teaching door to door to actually getting students then to come to your students or come to your studio or your shed? Because I know myself from having done that myself in my own business, an awful lot of my students were hesitant because a big part of my appeal, apart from the fact that it was they liked me and the style of things that I done, a big part of it was the convenience factor in that I rocked up at their house. They didn't need to do anything. So taking that away was a bit of a it was a bit of a reach for some of them. So how did you manage to overcome that?
Yeah, so you pretty much have to decide that uh, you're going to lose a bunch of people, and that's okay. That's the price you're going to pay to move forward in your career, and that's going to happen with anything. And so
Mm,
this comes to there's lots of principles in that. Learning to be able to say no. So if I would have had I don't know, maybe 10, 12 students or something where I'm going door to door, and then you have to make a draw a line in the sand and say, hey, on this date I'm going to be moving here. And you might have done like a trial one week and said, hey, instead of lessons happening door to door in 2 weeks time at your house, it's going to be at my new studio, so you can at least come check it out. And then you say, hey, from this week I'm going to be changing to this, and it's okay if you don't want to carry on, but this is what I'm doing. So I did it that way, and I had to basically,
Yeah.
lose a bunch of students, and that was okay because you just have to do some marketing and replace them with new students.
Yeah. And then so how did you like did you have any sort of security going into like I'd imagine you were paying rent on a place, and if you're happy enough, well not happy enough, but if you're kind of willing to take this calculated risk that fair enough you've got X amount of income over here that will support me in my new studio, but if half of them drop off, I still need to pay the studio. I now have an overhead more than just me diesel or me whatever other perishables a drum teacher might need. So like how did you go get around that? Did you just kind of accept it or
Well, I was really lucky because I built a really popular covers band, so we're playing bars and weddings and corporate events, and so I realized that
mm,
actually, if I want to go from just being a private teacher to building a real business, not just having a job,
yeah.
I need to just make this transition, invest money, and double down on it. And so I actually just lived off the money I made from gigs. And so my music school, something I've talked about a few times, but not everyone knows, is I didn't pay myself a dollar for the first 5 years from the music school, from the teaching. So I
Oh.
was doing lots of covers gigs, and I was paid pretty well for that. I didn't need the money from the music teaching, so I just invested every dollar into growing, and it paid for things like, so it did pay me my cell phone and my petrol and other business expenses. So it wasn't like
Mm,
$0, but in terms of like taking an income, I didn't take it for 5 years so that I could keep reinvesting. So then I had to work really hard. So you'd be gigging in evenings on top of a long
mhm.
day teaching, but that was just what you did, like to hustle and get to that next step.
Yeah, I know it's grueling. I've been
Mm,
there. I was towards the end of 2021. I was easily doing about 5 or 6 gigs over a Friday and a Saturday, and as well as teaching 40 students a week. And I went to the
wow.
doctor because I was getting tendonitis in both of my hands. So neither of my hands were working right, and they were like, "Well, what do you do for a job?" I says, "Well, I'm a guitarist." And they're like, "What do you mean you're a guitarist?" I said, "Well, I teach and I play guitar." And they were like, "Okay, so how many students a week do you teach?" I says, "Well, about 40." And says, "Are you sitting down for all them playing guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah." So you're playing guitar for up to 5, 6 hours a day, plus about 16 hours extra over a weekend. I says, "Yeah, that's about right." And it says, "Well, no wonder you're falling apart." And I was like, "Well, I
Yeah.
suppose when you put it like that, but
Oh
it is,
man.
it's grueling."
I love hearing those stories with people that put that work in, because we would never do it now because it's just like killing yourself, but it got you to that next
Yeah.
level. So my mammoth day, my kind of like war trophy was, I would go teach at the old high school I used to go to from 9
Okay.
till 3, I think it was, and then I would have an hour from 3 to 4 to race home, go bathroom, set up for private lessons, and I would teach from 4 till 8 o'clock, I think, or maybe 7:30 that
Jesus.
night. And then I'd pack down two drum kits. I'd pack down my jazz kit and my rock kit, and I would go and play a jazz. It was like I was the house drummer for a like a jazz jam night band. So, and
Right.
I would go play that from, I think it might have been 8:30 till 10:30, and then I'd pack down as fast as I could. Then I'd drive to this other bar called the Big Coomera, and we would
Right.
play covers on student night. This is on a Wednesday night, and we'd play from 11:30 p.m. till 3 a.m. So I did that every Wednesday for, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. And so in that day, you've worked from arriving at the school 8:45 and getting home at about
Yeah.
4 a.m., and I got to sleep in the next day. But that's the sort of like crazy
Build up.
work stuff that I did, because I was just
Yeah.
young,
Yeah.
fit, just going for it.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't. It's one of those things, and I always say this to my clients that I work with is that you don't feel like people are always like, "Oh, but sure, I'm not going to burn out. Just grand. Sure, I'm really enjoying it. I don't really work. I just kind of have the crack and play guitar." It's like, yeah, but there are those times where there's too much of a good thing. I used to do a similar thing every second Saturday when I started out first. I ended up getting very busy very very quick, and I think it was just because I'm kind of when I say I'm kind of known, people know me from playing locally. And when they heard, oh, just Barry from that pub, he's teaching guitar now. Sure, I'll send John to learn guitar and whatever. So I think that had an awful lot to do with it. I ended up taking on every second Saturday, which I didn't really want to do. But there was one Saturday, and I think it was the Saturday that kind of there was the straw that broke the camel's back, that I was teaching 9 o'clock in the morning until say 12, half 12 in the afternoon. Went in, got a shower, got a spot of lunch, went and done my first gig, 3 till 6. Went and done my second gig, 7 till 9. Third gig, half 9 to half 12. Fourth gig, fourth gig would have been 1 till close enough to 3. So same as
Wow.
yourself, 9 in the morning. I didn't do that every week now, in fairness. I tell you, if I had done that every week, I wouldn't be here to tell the tale. But I done
Yeah.
it one day, and I think that was enough to because that was 4 gigs on the bounce after an entire full week of teaching. And I was gigging twice the night before as well. And it was yeah, your hands are just
Yeah.
ah your everything hurts. Your
Yeah.
absolute everything hurts. See when I eventually crawled into bed at whatever time it was the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard going, and it's one of those things where it didn't occur to me that you are actually doing yourself more damage than good. You're paying off today with tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after.
Yeah.
So there's a handy little tip at the midway point. Look after yourselves, lads, and yourself will look after you.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So that
There we
work
go.
does
So
compounds in your life, right? So you receive the
mm,
benefits later on, but you got to leverage that work and those hard yards that you put in to reinvest it into moving forward. Otherwise, you end up just doing that for life, and you're trapped.
of
Yeah.
course, of course. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So when did you move from just being a solo just music teacher, just drum teacher, to then hiring your first staff member, and who was it?
Yeah, cool. So I mentioned that big Kumara bar that I was playing in, the student bar, and one night I was
Mhm.
playing, and it was probably 1 or 2 in the morning, and on a weeknight, and there was a whole bunch of, actually, like, Irish bars are really popular here in New Zealand, and so just up
Yep.
the road, another Irish bar that we played in. All the covers bands were friends back then, and so on your break, sometimes you just walk down the road to the next bar and see the other bands. And so on one of these nights, one of the bands playing at the Irish bar just up the road came down and watched us on their break. And as I looked out, I was just playing the song, and I was staring at the bass player. His name was Martin, and he was old enough to be my dad, and he also
Yeah.
was doing the exact same thing that I was doing. Old enough to be my dad, he was teaching in schools and playing gigs, and I had a similar experience with another musician locally called Lee. And I was like, these guys are old enough to be my dad. If I don't change something in my life, that's going to be my future. I'm just doing what they're already doing. They
Mm.
might have 30 years experience, but really, we're both here getting paid the same amount to do the same thing. So they've actually got, 1 year's experience in this industry 30 times over. And so that was a big moment where I'm like,
Mm.
man, I do not want to be doing this when I'm 50, 60 years old. So I that was one of the things where I thought, hey, I need to build a real business and build a music school. And so when you ask about the first student, I had my top student at the time, was his name was Nathan. He was about to go. I'd prepared him to get into the local music school to do a jazz degree. And so instead of him, working in a supermarket or McDonald's or something, I prepped him to
Mm.
be, a private teacher and work under me. And I had a waiting list of
Brilliant.
about 15 students, and so it was really simple. You can't learn with me, but I've got this, this teacher, Nathan, who's amazing. I've handpicked him, trained him up, and so it was a real win-win. He had an amazing job. He was getting paid, maybe twice as much as his fellow students were getting in their sort of crappy student jobs. And from
Yeah.
there, we just added teachers.
You just added teachers, and then did you just like I'd imagine you would have outgrown your shed very, very quick.
Yeah, we did. So we started in this old place. It was like an old war hospital that had been sort of renovated and turned into a function center, but half the buildings were super flash and half were super old and either going to be torn down or restored. So we got access really cheap to these old sheds, and they were perfect for what we needed, but they were crap. We didn't have a bathroom. We'd have to go pee in the bushes. We had,
Oh, jeez.
the odd mouse would run up the wall in the middle of a lesson. If there was heavy rain, a puddle would like form, like half a meter into the doorway. It was real humble
Yeah,
beginnings, and so we started
yeah.
this old shed, filled that up, and then there was another old shed that was even worse. And so I think I went and got a bank loan. I can't remember what it was. It was like maybe $5,000 or something, and it allowed me to hire a builder friend to, you know, put walls on this thing and insulation and carpet and lights and egg cartons, and now we had 2 rooms. And so that's how it started.
Okay.
So again, that was like taking money that you had and earned and reinvesting it into the next thing rather than just taking it yourself.
Okay, that was I literally made a note as you were talking as you were going through that because I was thinking I was like as someone that is a music school owner and operator, and I'm really happy with where my music school is, and I'm really proud of the music school that myself and my team have built.
Yeah.
But someone else out there that wouldn't have the same sort of assurances of themselves and sort of confidence in themselves and their abilities and what they've achieved, and someone that might be just that little bit more kind of careful with money is probably not the way to say it, but kind of more wary of spending money. I was going to ask about how do you then kind of ensure your security when you're expanding like that, um, for rent and stuff, and you kind of just answered it with like a bank loan. But was that the only way you did it, or again, are you just going and just sort of taking a leap of faith, knowing that you've put the work in and hoping for the best?
Yeah. So, are you asking like how do I, take risks? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of,
Or,
yeah. I think what I'm asking in a very very roundabout and probably awkward way is if someone else was to go and do that someone else sort of in the position that you were in is wanting to take that next step, and the next step is to improve the premises that they are in, but they don't necessarily have the resources to do it.
yeah.
What would you advise them to do?
Yeah, so if you think about like growth in terms of imagine like a slope, you start at this point and it just slopes upwards nice and tidy. That would be amazing if that's how things grew, right? But it doesn't grow that way.
Hmm.
It's like a staircase. And so what you need to realize is currently you're on one of those stairs on the staircase. And to get to the next stair, it's actually just a big step up, right? And it feels daunting and scary,
Mm.
but once you get there, you've got over that step, and then it's smooth sailing flat for a while until the next one. And so you need to basically, decide like, do I want to get to that next step, and then how am I going to do it? And you pretty much have to look at, are you going to do it with time, sweat, and hard work, or are you going to do it with money or with connections, and you just got to figure out how you're going to do it. And it just means different seasons you're just going to have to really work harder. So if you know that the only way you're going to be able to pull off that next step is you've got no money, and so you just have to generate extra money, and you're going to have to do that by working harder in your current format. Although there's plenty of ways you can think outside the box, you you have to raise the money and be disciplined to set that aside and work towards a target to do that. So I think that's the first thing, is that you've got to figure out how to raise the extra money. Now, one of the things that most musicians kind of struggle with is thinking outside the box and just having kind of the guts and confidence to just step out and try something different. So, for instance, if I thought
Mm.
about, the way that I did it back then, it was really slow. It was kind of, well, I have one offer. I offer 30-minute drum lessons, and I charge whatever $30, and Nathan gets $15, and I pay some taxes, and whatever's left is for me to cover all the expenses. That was really slow. So if I needed to raise another $5,000 to do something, it was going to take a long
Mm.
time. Whereas today, knowing what I know now, I'd do it radically different. You'd figure out, well, how could I raise $5,000 in 1 month, or 2 weeks, and you'd think through, well, what sort of events or workshops or special things could I put on that would raise that money? What sort of package could I sell? What sort of I don't know, just something totally different that would speed it up. So you're trying to figure out, how do I get there faster? And then the second thing is around the risk stuff. And so you're looking at, well, how can I
Mm,
minimize the risks? If I'm scared of taking steps and I just want to, just make sure it's really safe. Well, you look at the thing that you're trying to do, and you see, well, are there ways to, one saying I got from Jim Collins, a business writer, is, can you fire bullets before cannonballs? So basically, is there a way to test something before you actually just go all in on it? So, for instance, if you wanted to test,
yeah,
let's say you want to build an extra extension to your shed so that you can host a band band class. Well, you don't go and spend
yeah,
another 5 grand extending your shed and then launching bands. You go find a community hall or a church or a school classroom or something that you can hire for one Saturday for $100 or $200, and then you run a special band thing, and then you ask everyone, "Hey, would you like to have this every week?" Cool, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pre-sell it. You pay up front so that I can afford to do this thing, and it will kick off here in 3 months or 1 month. So that's the way you would fire a bullet. You make a test, and then you can pre-sell it, or let people experience it, survey, get interest. So that's an example. And so there's lots of ways you can reduce risk, but that would be the biggest one.
okay. That's after giving me a bit of a masterclass in things that I never, ever, ever would have thought of. Yeah, I suppose it's a horse before the cart sort of thing. But yeah, I often find that nowadays in like the kind of the TikTok generation that we're in, even if we're not the TikTok generation, I am not the TikTok generation, but I buy Jesus, I make use of TikTok. I love TikTok, and I really feel like it has made us sort of just take leave of our common sense. In that we just sort of, I'm quite an impulsive person as it is, so it doesn't help that I've got all this extra other stuff going on to make me even more impulsive. But yeah, we tend to take leave of our senses and just like not actually think about the most sensible way of doing things. And yeah, I think that is its own mini little masterclass. So speaking about that sort of thing, then, um, what are some of the most like common mistakes that new music school owners will make? You must have come across the same mistake a million times over.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first one is just choosing the wrong model. If you think about how most people even teach, well, they teach the way that they were taught, and they just assume that's how you teach.
Mm,
So they never bother to go do any actual teacher training. And I don't mean go get a teacher's degree. I just mean do some sort
mhm,
of training, like take an online course or read a book, or go shadow an
mhm.
amazing teacher for a day and take notes. So the same thing happens with business models. So they go, well, my teacher taught me 30-minute half-hour lessons for whatever, £20, so hey, I'm just gonna do the same thing. And those days are
Mm.
gone, man. That's the worst. Like, door to door and just one-on-one half-hour lessons is like one of the slowest ways to build a business, and yeah, rarely ever works on a big scale. So the first thing is like getting the right model. And there's so much I could say here, but one of the amazing tools that you can get for free on the buildamusicschool.com website is, I can't remember the number of models, but we did this full on, deep dive into all the different types of models for music teaching. And we,
I think it was 30.
is it 30? Yeah. And so you can check
I
that
think it
out,
was
and it
30.
and it grades them on all the things that matter for you. Like, how hard is it to implement? How well does it scale? Like, how much time is it going to take you? How much income will it make you? There's all these categories, and it asks you a bunch of life questions to think about yourself. Or do you want to travel the world one day, or do you want to stay in your hometown? Well, based on that, you might choose a different model. So I think that's the first one. And so many people come and join our program. We fix the model first, and then now they've got the ladder leaned up against the right building. They start climbing, and yeah,
Yeah.
make massive traction.
So, say for example, there was a music school out there that had a number of tutors that were door to door and pretty much one to one. How would you go about fixing that model? What's broken about that, and what is the solution?
Yeah, so the door to door thing, I think that is actually one, like, unless you charge a massive premium, it's like literally the worst model. because you've got
Mm-hmm.
travel time booked in there. Um, you've
Mm-hmm.
got rising fuel costs. The only
Oh
benefit
yeah.
the only benefit is you don't have rent to pay someone else, I think.
Mm.
And people, it's convenient for people, so they like that. Um, what I would do, and what we've seen loads of people do, is you basically have to do a Google pin drop, and so you load in all your students into. There's a little app on Google. It'll just load in all their addresses, drop all the pins, and then you basically have a radius of where your students are. You look for kind of a common area and go, okay, well, if I had a studio about here, everyone would be within a 12-minute drive. Great. So you get in your car and you literally go for a drive, and you just look and see what's in the area, and you just write everything down or go door knocking. So you're like, well, we ended up at, in multiple places. And in that video I talked about where I film the whole journey and we go out in the car, at one point we were in like an old race course, and there was a building in there, and so I taught there for a little while. There are rooms, there's community halls, there's churches, there's scouts and girl guide halls, there's businesses that might be open to certain spaces, there's schools, there's so many things. You just got to get out and drive, and just, oh, what's down this driveway, or go have a look in this industrial area. So that's one of the things I do to then pivot and move everyone to a location. The other one is, I'm working with a member who I won't name because she's just about to sell her music school. She basically hires,
Oh.
yeah, scout halls, and so she
Mm-hmm.
made like a little trailer, I think it was, with all the equipment, and so they just drive to these halls, set up, pay them a fee, and then leave. So you're trying, even though it's not her own space, it's a step closer to getting that. um, so you've got to just get out of a broken model, because there's no way to scale a broken model and get out of the pain it's causing you. If you uh, grew it to be 5-10 times the size, it's just going to be 5-10 times the pain. So you just got to make that plunge and, yeah, build a plan to transition.
Okay. Fair enough. You may have guessed that that is my model.
Yep.
So
Well, feel
yeah,
free to ask me as
it
many
is.
questions as you want.
Well,
Or the
I tell you what. Then let's as an experiment. If you're okay with this, let's as an experiment. Would you be able to do a quick sweep over my business as a case study for anybody out there that is thinking of doing what I've done, potentially thinking of doing what you're doing, potentially thinking of just starting their own business from scratch, and maybe to
Sure.
avoid some of the things that I've done wrong, or some of the things that do you know what I mean? So what do you need to know about my business in order to give a sweep over?
Yeah, cool. Well, let me just give one like positive thing that just so I'm not totally trashing it, because what you've built, it's still
No,
a
no,
great thing, but it's a great stepping
yeah,
stone to an even better thing. One thing I would say is that some people have pivoted from that model to basically building it like a how would you describe it? Like an agent sort of marketplace, where they basically facilitate the website, charge a fee for getting students. You would have seen this sort of thing, right? So there's people that have
yeah, yeah,
pivoted
yeah, yeah.
into that area, and that can do well. The problem is a lot of those teachers just want to fill their spots, and then they disconnect from the service. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have that lifetime value. So the first thing I guess I would ask you is, what is what is the dream for you? Like, what do you and you can be as personal as you want to be here, like, in terms of when you think of what am I actually building towards, like, what do I wish my business was like? Do you do you have a clear vision of what you want to build and why?
To be perfectly honest with you, I suppose I've kind of in the past 6 months or so lost track of what my original vision was because I had so much other things taken over my time. I personally don't teach that much anymore. I do an awful lot of podcasting. I do an awful
Yeah.
lot of coaching for other musicians that want to get out of working in shite jobs that they have no interest in. But if I was to go back and think about what actually motivated me to start was I was working at another music school and who are no longer there anymore. And I just I wanted to better them in every single way. I wanted to show them that I was the smart one, that I knew better than them. And I think I've fulfilled that a million times over in my head for whatever pettiness it was worth. But I think
Yeah.
in reality, as a real kind of achievable goal, first of all, I wanted to build the most reputable music school in the Northeast. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the biggest. It doesn't necessarily mean anything like that, but it does mean the best and the kind of the go-to school
Yep.
in the Northeast of Scotland. So that's kind of the Aberdeenshire area, and then build it up to the biggest one or the most reputable in Scotland, the rest of the UK and Ireland, etc., 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 until we take over the whole world.
Amazing.
That's probably not as realistic. Maybe the northeast of Scotland is a more realistic goal.
Okay. And so, how many students and staff have you got at the moment?
I have got a grand total of 5 tutors, only one of which is full time, and he is also my super admin that does everything that doesn't need my face on it. Any correspondence, scheduling, onboarding, he takes care of all of it, and he is the guitar tutor as well. I've got 4 others that are two of them are very much part time, 2 of them are not as much part time, but still quite part time. And in terms of student numbers, I think we're sort of hovering between the 80 to 100.
Okay.
There's a handy discrepancy between 80 and 100, but we've got some group lessons on the go, and it's always sort of it fluctuates.
Got it. And is that the biggest it's ever been, the 80 to 100? And
Yeah.
how long have you been at that level?
We've been at that level. I would say we've been at that level for the past since the start of the year. So what's this? 4
4
months,
months.
I suppose.
Okay, cool. So you've grown to that 100 students. For how long has it taken to get from 0 to 100?
0 to 100, year and a half.
Okay, that's really good.
Say 18 months to be conservative.
And what would be the rough distance you think you're covering with students? Is it, um, like 20 kilometers, 50 miles? What's rough numbers?
Uh, on average, I'd say you could stick a 15-mile radius from the center of Aberdeen around. So I don't know if it's 15 miles from the center up and then down. So if it's a 30-mile radius, or do you know
Yep.
what I mean? 15 miles ish, thereabouts.
Okay, cool. So, and I don't know if you want to talk about like what your income is from it and what your goal is, but maybe if you don't want to share that, what would be, what you earn now, what would be kind of the goal in the next, 1 to 2 years? Would it be to double, triple, 1.5x?
I would say I would say within 5 years. No, within 3 years, I would want to maybe 5x.
Okay, 5x.
Within the next year, if I could double within the next
Okay,
year,
well, let's go.
I feel like that would be a good achievable goal to set.
Okay, and now you don't have a location at the moment. Is that part of a dream you would like to have, or you definitely don't want to have?
Well, one of my things when I started was that I knew that the door to door, one to one model was broken, but it was the only model that I knew how to implement. And it's something that when I took on my first set of tutors, I always said to them that I can't ever promise anything, but the only thing I can promise is that I would always work towards creating actual real employment for them. And real employment would mean not going around to students' houses. But as I said, it's the only kind of model that I ever knew how to implement. So yes, in a very, very long-winded way, I think I would like to have a premises at some point.
Okay. Well, if I was working with you, we'd have a much longer conversation, and so there'd be lots of trickier questions to deep dive into. So take this with a grain of salt. But let me give
Mm.
you, for the sake of being an interviewer on a podcast, let me give you a snapshot now,
Yeah.
just with the information you have. If I was in your shoes, this is what I would do. I would either, let's say we want to work towards a studio. What I would do is I would say to the students, hey, we're going to get together. 1 week in the month now is actually going to be band week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to not have lessons that week, and we're all going to be placed into bands, and that's going to happen on one day, maybe it's Saturday. And so you'll get scheduled across a Saturday, and you would find a venue, a hall somewhere, and you would schedule the students, and the teachers come in and they run bands. So the students all get that connection, getting to know each other. Then
Hmm.
this is if I assume you're sort of more a contemporary pop rock focused school rather than like a
Yeah.
classic. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it might be different if you're doing like classical chamber music, you'd adjust this. But for you in your genre, it's perfect. So then I would be basically going, okay, this is the model I want to end up with is how do I get my tutors off the road so that they can do less of that stuff and I can scale faster? So one thing is you might your studio you're in at the moment looks really awesome. Imagine if all the lessons didn't actually take place in their houses. Maybe instead of an online one-on-one thing, you actually do it almost like a radio show. Like right now we're talking the two of us. Imagine there's 12 other students in the queue right now, and you're like, "Hey, Johnny, how's it going? Hey, good. Barry, I'm trying to work on this thing. How to play Rock Beat One. Great." And you work with me to solve that problem. And the way that you talk is you're teaching me, but you're also addressing everyone else on the Zoom call and helping them to get involved and learn that thing. Great. You know what to work on, Johnny?
Hmm.
Awesome. I want to see you at one of the next calls later this week, showing me that you can play that. Okay, cool. Next caller, Dave. How's it going? What are you working on? And so imagine if instead of all these 100 lessons going out into everyone's homes, you
Hmm.
either reduce that down to those one a month, and then another 2 weeks are actually, instead of 100 hours being used up by your team, they actually come into your studio and they are scheduled in 2-hour blocks, and they teach, and
Yeah.
students can now log in unlimited and have access to you. So instead of half an hour a week, they're actually getting, it might be access to 20 hours a week. So the program becomes more diversified. So they've got you um, teaching via the kind of call-in Zooms, and they get way more
Yeah.
access. They have the band week where they come in and all perform together and work towards songs and concerts. The third thing is now you've freed up the teachers to do less teaching, and now they can build something that's more scalable. So if they were coming into your studio, you would identify as a team, all right, guys, the curriculum for this next quarter of the year or month is going to be these 10 songs that the student's going to work towards beginner, intermediate, advanced. I need you to film tutorials on how to play all those songs. So now our students have a library they can log into to get all the lessons and support they need. They've got video calls they can tune in multiple times a week, and they don't have to wait till the next lesson. You may still include the one lesson to their house, and you got the band classes, and you wrap it up with like monthly competitions and fun stuff. So now that totally transforms your model. Then you get out. Then I would get out into all the schools. I would run like a 1 month promotion to do like an intro to music type program, where they can sign up and get a taste of what it's like at your music school. And then that 100 spots that you've got now, you could scale that to probably 500 without needing to add a single team member or adding another hour of work. So that's a real snapshot, but that's
Okay.
what I would do. And you'd double your income, like if you implemented it. I've seen people do it in about 6 months safely and smoothly. You double your income in 6 months.
Okay. That's that sort of melted my brain a little bit,
Yeah, well, that's
but in a
that's
good
why I
way.
get
In a
that's
good
why I
way.
get paid the big bucks from music schools all around the world to solve their problems, and it's different for every studio. So that was just taking the little bits of info you gave me.
Okay.
Mm.
Very good. Well, anyone out there listening that is in the same position as me with a now completely broken music school that needs to be fixed. There you go. That's how you do
Yeah,
it. And I don't mean to sound skeptical about this, but I'm going to ask a really stupid question, like a really
yeah,
stupid
do it.
question. But that works. That really works.
Yeah, yeah.
People are on board with that.
People are doing it. The thing that you need to do is, and there's so much to this, but you need to frame everything in the benefit to the person. So you're probably thinking, oh, but I'm not getting 4 one-on-one sessions in a month. No, you're not. But you're getting these other things that have massive benefits. And so you're explaining why this new thing is better to help them get the results that they want. So I won't go into details for all of them, but you take something like, let's say, the library of videos and things. Well, of course,
Yeah,
there's YouTube, which has got endless stuff, but it's overwhelming. People don't get the results. So you have to say, you don't just say, oh, you're going to get these lessons, this library, blah, blah, blah. You actually say, we've built this custom library of support resources which is tailored to your development so that you never forget what you learned at lessons, so that you have 24/7 support. You can also comment and chat below, so you've got 24/7 access to your teacher, and so you don't ever run the risk of practicing something wrong, because you can refer to that, you can ask questions, you can jump onto the calls, and that's available 24/7 as opposed to waiting till next week when you got 30 minutes with me. So that's how you'd take one feature, and you've got about 5 or 10 things that you can add, and you explain them in a benefit way, not just a feature. So a feature is a video library with 200 videos. That's just a feature.
yeah,
That doesn't tell me why that's important. So a good little line
yeah,
is to any feature that you write down. Like, let's say you wrote your own drum book and you want to give that to students. You say what the feature is. Hey, and so you get my
yeah,
3-level drum book system, and then you write so
yeah,
that, and then you fill in so that, and then what's the benefit? So that you have everything that you need to go from rock beat one to being uh, being able to play with any band in town confidently. That's the benefit. Yeah. So
okay,
you insert a
right,
benefit, and
yeah,
this
right,
is why this is how like the best people um do well is and build successful teaching businesses and schools. It's not the best musicians, it's the best that can run the business, lead and market and explain why it's awesome.
right. Okay, that has yeah, that's kind of blown my mind a little bit. It's again, it's one of those. It's exactly what I'm saying. It's that like when you explain it like that, you're like, well, duh. That's so not obvious, but it's like when you think about it, it's so it's downright sensible. So it is.
Yeah, well, it's like
Um,
when you go to
yeah,
the doctor, he'll ask you a few questions, and then he'll go, "Oh, you need this medicine." You're like, "Oh, duh, of course I needed that." But it's the doctor's done his 50,000 hours of being an expert in the field, and so I guess that's the sort of the similar thing for me is that I've had to do this, um, yeah, so you can diagnose it
yeah.
faster than people figuring it out on their own.
Very good. Very good. One of the questions I have written down here then is what is the quickest way to expand? But there's probably no real answer to that, or just get someone who knows what they're doing.
I can turn it into a good question with a good answer if you want me to.
Go on. What's the good question? What's the best way to
Okay,
ask
so the
this?
quickest way for you to expand, let's say that you've got unlimited space for students. So if 100 students called you tomorrow, you could actually fit them in. So let's say that
Yeah.
was the case. Fastest way to expand is a compelling offer, is what we call it, and you can get our whole formula for this in at buildamusicschool.com. Go to module 2. There's an incredible course like this. This is how we broke our record of signing up 155 students in one day, and we did over 100 students in a day, probably 4 or 5 times, and many other massive days. So basically, you need a compelling offer. And what most people do is they say, "Well, I teach singing, so I do 30-minute singing lessons, and they're whatever £25, and that's it, and that's my thing."
Mm,
And you just sign up and stick around forever until you've had enough, and then you quit. That's kind of the vibe of all music teachers. However, a
yeah.
compelling offer is like, hey, come in for my intro to singing program, and you give it some cool name like, you know, um, 30 days from shower to stage, go from being a shower singer to someone who's actually going to perform a song on stage in 30 days. If you are a heavy metal
Yeah.
guitarist, it's like, I don't know, shred like a beast in 30 days, go from, you frame it in what's relevant for you, and your style and
Yeah.
skills.
Of course.
So you create a program that's only going to be, let's say, we found it like a 1 month works the best, anything from 2 to 4 weeks or more.
Mm.
And you are going to give people a taste of like what you do, but you're going to wrap it around with all the coolest stuff you can offer. So you're gonna give them a certificate when they finish that program. You're gonna take a photo of that certificate, give them a chocolate bar or some candy to celebrate at the end. You're gonna perform some sort of item, and just film a video so they got something to show, and you can load it to a YouTube clip for them. And you're going to give them like a little workbook that they're going to work through for that month, and it's going to have your branding on it, something kind of tangible. And the
Yeah.
certificate can be branded the same. So you wrap around this whole thing. We did an intro to music program. So kids came in for 5 weeks and they would learn, drums 1 week, guitar 1 week, ukulele, bass, singing. They'd put it all together into a band at the end, and it was just awesome. So you need a compelling offer that draws people in. What you should do every month is you should change up the offer. So you add a bunch of bonuses, which you just build into the price. So a popular one for us was movie tickets. So we'd go, hey, if you sign up this month, you get, and you list all those all those bonuses and benefits in the program, plus 2 free movie tickets, and you've just added $20 to the price for the month, So it's a fixed term thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So now parents are thinking, oh, okay, so I don't actually have to sign up forever. I sign up for this thing. We know all kids should at least give music a shot. So I'll give my
Yeah.
kid a shot at this intro to vocal, intro to piano program. And then you market the
Right.
hell out of that thing. And so that's one of the big secrets and tools. And if you want to see all the actual examples and resources, go check out module 2 at buildamusicschool.com. You can grab it for free. We'd love you to
Okay.
stick around, but if you want to
Yeah.
just take it and leave, if that's your vibe, then whatever, that's cool.
You go for it. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. I find myself completely forgetting that I'm meant to be controlling the conversation here and making this interesting for people to listen. But I'm like, nah, nah, nah. You can all go entertain yourselves. I'm in school here now. This is this is fantastic. I can now see why I obviously I was aware of these things before, just through different channels of communication, that you have won various awards, like business person. Sorry, I believe it was Young Business Person of the Year, and local hero medals and all that kind of crack.
Yeah, that was a real special moment and humbling experience. So the awards sit in a box somewhere upstairs, but they were very cool moments in my life.
Yeah. So what so the local hero medal, what was that about?
Yeah, so I had real passion to like use my skills to try and help kids that couldn't afford lessons, and so I set up a charitable trust where basically I was convicted that there was all these rich kids were getting this amazing experience at our building, and other kids were getting subpar sort of experiences elsewhere in poorer communities. So I thought, well, let's just bring them in busloads to our school and let's find money. And so over years, I raised about 700 grand in funding for free lessons for kids that couldn't afford it. And so that charitable trust still runs
Oh,
today. Currently, I'm the chairman of the board for it. I'm not running the day to day operations, but they continue to
yeah.
do great work and select kids through principals in uh, poorer community schools and pick them up on a bus on a Friday afternoon, bring them to the building for 2 or 3 hours of lessons and mentoring. And so, doing all that charitable work and getting out there, it led to, um, my team nominating me for an award and writing an application and succeeding and getting this cool medal.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's a fantastic incentive. Absolutely fantastic incentive. I, at one stage, this isn't something that actually very many people know, was that before I ever moved to Scotland, before I ever even, about 10 years ago, my bandmate at the time was doing social work in college, and he was to do some work experience at like a center for kids who had been either kicked out of school or had left school or
Yep.
whatever, and that was part of his social work. But Kevin, being in the band and being a singer, he was trying to do some music lessons with him. Now he didn't play any instrument. He's only actually literally this year. His girlfriend, was fiance now. He texted me over Christmas looking for recommendations for a guitar for him. So he's now living in Doha playing guitar in a band, one of the biggest bands there. But anyway, back 10 years ago, he needed someone to play music. And I says, well, sure, look, I'll go do it. And now some of these kids, they were 14, 15. One of them was a dad at the time, and he only 15,
Wow.
16. Huge drug problem. Loads of them had drug problems. Loads of them had just loads of social problems and just didn't have really great expected life outcomes, I think was the term they used. I'm probably getting that
Yep.
wrong now. The point I'm making, the difference that the music lessons made to their lives. And we put on a concert at the end. We recorded a CD. We put on a concert at the end of all kids. I think we played Horse with No Name because it was two chords. And we had a guy playing cajon and we had them all singing. And there was one guy who played tin whistle, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was really, really good. It wasn't something that I ever thought I would enjoy or get anything out
Mm.
of, but it really was. Kind of going back to what you were saying there at the start, if you can give that experience to someone else, it's far better than experiencing it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and I think all those stories are super inspiring, and I think a lot of teachers and musicians, almost all of them, want to do that sort of stuff, but they're struggling, and they
Yeah,
need someone like you to help them with their career and to, like when you're on the airplane, they say, "Hey, put your oxygen mask on first before helping others." So a lot of people are like, "I'd love to be generous. I'd love to give money away," but the answer to be able to do that is having a profitable business that can come out of. And
of course.
so yeah, the more that you're able to earn, the more you are able to give, and it is actually the most
Yeah, of
exciting
course.
thing. People don't believe you, but I think it is.
Yeah, and then alongside that, then did you have to like sort of transition? I couldn't think of the word transition half an hour ago. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so did you have to? Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Anyway, sorry. You know yourself at this hour of the morning, you're kind of going loopy. But so did you sort of have to transition then from being an education supplier, basically, to a charity and have all the things that come along with a charity? So, like a fundraising team, for example, I'd imagine some sort of compliance because you would have had to be meeting certain criteria in order to be eligible for charitable status and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so we set up a separate entity. So we have the for profit business and then a separate charitable trust. And so my school is called Good Time Music Academy. So you have Good Time Music Academy Limited, the business, and then the Good
Yeah,
Time Foundation, and they're total separate entities. Which, yeah, there's a lot of like details and stuff of how it works and
yeah.
agreements and legal things. And I lay out
Mm.
literally everything for that, and that's in module 8 in our library. So literally everything
All
that
right.
built us, this massive music school generating, 7 figures plus a year, everything that I have to give is available. You can go get it for free. So you got a free seven
Yeah.
day trial, buildmusicschool.com, take whatever you need if that's your thing you want to work on. But we show you how to start small. You're not going to jump straight into raising. I think the trust has raised over $1 million now. You're not going to pull that off next week. It's going to take time. We show you how to
No.
start from the bottom with that. Because the great thing is there's so many people out there that want to give money, so you don't actually have to do everything for free. Um, there's
Yeah, of
so
course.
much money to be found of generous people out there.
Yeah. As you say, bullets, not cannonballs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Start small and let it build. Yeah, but you've got to have a vision of what you want to do, who you want to help. You got to be passionate about it, and if you got that vision, the provision will follow.
Very good. Very good. Um, right. Okay. Cool. It's usually at this point that I would ask, Johnny, is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you're kind of wanting to push, or like what's next for you?
Yeah, so a couple things. So I'm running buildamusicschool.com. We've got an amazing team there of experienced music school owners that have done big things. And so we're all there to help you no matter what level you're at, whether you've got, 5 students or 500. That's a place that you want to be. Cool thing we just did recently that you can see at our YouTube channel is we just hosted our first ever conference. Our community is called the BAM Squad, Builder Music School Squad, and we held a conference here in New Zealand, and so we had about 40, 50 people came from all over the world. So you can see the footage of that
Oh, cool.
and check that out. So that's something you may want to think about coming along to next time. So, get on our email list. There's heaps of free resources on our website. We know that it's a long journey to build a successful teaching business. We help everyone at every stage. So no matter where you're at, we have stuff that will blow your mind that you can come and grab for free, and hopefully you'll stick around and enjoy it, and we'll be there for the long haul to help you out.
Yeah. Well, if this past hour's worth of a conversation hasn't blown your mind, then I don't know what will blow your mind.
Too
So
kind.
yeah, that's been fantastic. Before we finish up, Johnny, let's jump into a quick fire round of, as I always explain this is kind of like icebreakers at the end,
Okay,
just because, just why not? It's just a bit of crack.
sounds good.
So one I heard on one I heard on my favorite podcast today, the Two Johnnies podcast, was what is your favorite meal deal?
That's good. Oh, mate, it's got to be like the lunchtime curry, butter chicken, garlic naan, rice for, I don't know what the price is now, but
Yeah.
that's a great deal when I'm popping into town.
Yes, that's the job. We don't have that here. We don't have that. You don't get a lunchtime curry. That's quite
Oh,
fancy.
yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. What is your favorite type of shoe?
Oh, man, I'm one of these people that should dress better because I just don't care about clothes. So whatever I'm wearing now, they're just normal, regular shoes. I'm going to take them off and show the camera. Do you post this on YouTube?
Hey, come on, I really want to see this.
Hey, just there's one of these hush puppies. They're comfortable. There you go.
Hush.
Practical.
I like it. On that same thought. Now, this wasn't written down. This just came to mind, and I'll tell you why
Yeah,
in a
do it.
second. Have you got a particular type of drumming shoe?
No, I just whatever I'm
You
wearing.
don't. You just whatever you're wearing. The reason I ask is because I play an instrument called a farmer foot drum. Have you ever come across one?
No, tell me more.
Oh, you are in for a world of fun. Now, I can't show you because it is the heaviest thing on earth, but it is a self-contained drum kit that you play with your feet while playing guitar and stuff. So you're like a one-man band. Just kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats. I've got a tom, I've got a crash cymbal. There's a guy called oh my God, just one guy, Mark Smith. He's in America. I know he listens. How you, Mark? And he has an 18 pedal foot drum that he built, and he has literally every single thing.
Wow.
And the reason I ask about the drumming shoe is because I one time tried to play at a wedding in shoes that were pointy.
Oh yeah.
And if you're kicking and stuff, and there's like, so I'm trying to if anyone listening to this is going to think that I'm mental, but so in order to get the crash cymbal, the crash cymbal is on what's called like a toe post. So you've got your kick drum here, and then like a little toe post to that strikes it operates a stick that then strikes the cymbal it's sort of out. And every time I had the kind of dress shoes on, because I was trying to look the part, I was at a wedding, and every time I went to kick the crash, I was tripping. So I was sitting down, but I was like kind of tripping over the toe post. So it was an absolute, complete and utter nightmare. And I vowed never again to be wearing shoes. And so now the test of shoes for me is whether or not I can play drums in them.
Yeah, well, that's a good test, and I've played with pointy shoes before and realized no, I'm never doing that again, or really slippery soles. So yeah, there we go.
There you go. It's a bad plan. But yeah, so if in fact I had the inventor of the Farmer Foot Drum on the podcast, Pete Farmer. Go and listen to his episode. As a drummer, you will love it. And go and Google Farmer Foot Drums.
I'm going to do that. It sounds amazing.
Endless fun. I promise you. It's a rabbit hole you're going to want to go down. You're going to get nothing done now for the rest of the day. I know you've got the whole day ahead of you in New Zealand. Not anymore, you don't. Grant, let's do a couple more. What is the funniest joke that you know?
The funniest joke I've heard is actually, is he from Scotland? Billy Connolly? Is he from Scotland?
He is indeed. He's from Glasgow.
You might have to look it up on YouTube to have him tell it better, and I don't want to ruin it, but look up his story about the dwarf on the bus. I don't want to give away the punchline.
Okay.
That's the funniest story I've ever heard. I think that's hilarious.
Dwarf on the boat. Okay, I'm going to take a note of that because once I go inside now, I'm not going to fall asleep
Yeah.
straight away. So I'm going to have a look at Dwarf on
And
a
all
bus.
respect to the little
Billy
people
Connolly.
community. And dwarf is probably derogatory now. I can't keep up with the wokeness, but that story is very funny.
Oh, I don't know why. Oh God, this is getting into dodgy territory. I was going to say, what do you call them? And I don't even know if that sounds
Yeah,
terrible. But
we're
I don't
probably
know.
not the podcast to decide that for the world, but
No, no. But that's well. Look, for better or worse, that's the pair of us just been
yeah,
cancelled
yeah.
anyway. So, but anyway, let's move away from that really quick. Let's do two more. We'll do one more kind of half serious one, and then one just for the crack. So, if you could live in any era, what era would you choose? So any time in history. It can be today, it can be tomorrow, it can be a million years ago.
Um, I like the era we're in now. I would my best memories are like the 2000s where like social media hasn't taken off, and everyone goes out to
Yeah.
everyone goes out to gigs every weekend and dances and has fun.
Yeah.
Whereas that's changed. So I would want to relive my
So
punk
much.
rock days, playing shows every weekend where people actually show up and they're watching and dancing and not on their cell phones.
Yes, and
Yeah,
enjoying it and enjoying the game, actually enjoying being out playing and
yeah,
stuff like that. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. That's real. I've not had that answer
yeah.
yet. That's just that's gotten me right in the feelings. And let's finish on a truly wholesome question. What celebrity would you like to fight?
It's so good. Um, I've never been in a fight in my whole life, so I would have to pick someone that I thought that I could win against, and
I always like kind of clarify this. You don't have to dislike them. You could just be like like I was saying earlier on. Someone said Christopher
yeah,
Walken
yeah,
because imagine imagine him like trash talking you and like trying to talk you out of like fighting. I can't even do a
yeah,
Christopher
yeah.
Walken, but you know he's that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh mate, it's I think I'd just have to go with Brad Pitt and try win and feel like I had some sort of amazing moment where I took down the lead actor from Fight Club, but he would
I
kick
think
my butt.
nah. I think he could do it. I think you could do it. I think you could absolutely you could hammer him. Did you see that film Once Upon a Time in
Oh
Hollywood where
yes.
he picks up Bruce Lee and launches him into a
Oh,
car?
so good. Yeah, yeah. Well, you see if you can set the fight up, and I'll be there. Yeah,
Here, Brad, if you're listening, give
yeah,
us a shout. We'll
yeah.
sort it out. Johnny's after calling you out. Step out for belts. Uh, Johnny, just in case people didn't catch earlier on where they can find you online, promote Everton, tell people where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so check us out, buildermusicschool.com. We've got the Builder Music School Facebook page and YouTube channel. There's just so much awesome free stuff there. Just grab the free stuff if you're a tight, stingy musician. But if you know that you need to invest and take steps forward in your career, like every dollar that you use towards things that we help you out with is going to come back tenfold.
Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.